This is the March 24th Select Board meeting. Michelle Pryor, joined by my colleague and recently re-elected Anthea Brady, our newest member, Paris Bayani, Mike Betancourt, and our colleague Bill McGonigal is on the phone, and our town manager, Beth Rudolph. So if you hear Bill hoarsely saying things, that will be why. We're going to just move right into acceptance of donations, and Anthea is graciously reading motions tonight because our vice chair is no longer here.
Move that we accept with gratitude a donation of $2,250 from the Pediatric Dental Associates of Winchester, Winchester Rotary Club, and Winchester Savings Bank to the Recreation Department for the concerts on the Common.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Move that we accept with gratitude an earmark of $100,000 from
Common, not a period.
yeah from Mass DEP to the town of Winchester towards the purchase of a trauma screen for the transfer station.
Second.
Okay. Mike?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Anthea?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Thank you.
Move that we accept with gratitude a Sustainable Materials Recovery Program grant of $195,000 from Mass DEP to the town of Winchester for the aerobic digester for the transfer station.
Second.
Okay. Starting with Bill?
Aye.
Anthea?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
I vote yes.
Move that we accept with gratitude a donation of $902 from individuals and families of the Winchester Recreation Department to be used towards the Recreation Department's Neighbors Helping Neighbors Fund.
Second.
Starting with Mike?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Anthea?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
And I vote yes.
Move that we accept with gratitude donations of $370 to the Council on Aging for general operations of Council on Aging programs, activities, and transportation services.
Second.
Anthea?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Mike?
Yep.
Bill?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Thank you.
Move that we accept with gratitude an earmark of $50,000 from the Department of Conservation and Recreation to Winchester to add safety netting for the playground area at McDonald Field and a shade structure at Leonard Field Playground.
Second.
Okay, Mike?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Anthea?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Poor Bill. But we're going to do roll call votes all night, so at least it's in the record. Okay, so Beth, if you can do your town manager report, and then we'll get to our public hearing, and then public comment.
First up, I have a few appointments. In accordance with Section 4-2B of the Town Charter and in accordance with the rules and regulations of the Department of Personal Administration, Civil Service, and as permitted by Chapter 708 of the Acts of 1941 as amended, I've made the following promotional appointments in the Fire Department to Nicholas Hinckley of Danvers, Robert Joyce of Danvers, and Andrew Moraine of Wilmington to lieutenant. And I respectfully request that the board vote to waive the normal 15-day appointment period.
Move that we waive the 15-day waiting period to promote Nicholas Hinckley, Robert Joyce, and Andrew Moranian from firefighter to lieutenant.
Second.
Okay, Anthea?
Yes.
Paris? Mike?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
I vote yes.
And then one last appointment. In accordance with Section 4-2B of the Town Charter, I've made the following regular full-time appointment in the Department of Public Works, Brian DeMuth to school custodian, and I request the board vote to waive the customary 15-day appointment period.
Move that we waive the 15-day waiting period to hire DPW school custodian Brian DeMuth.
Second.
Okay, Mike?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Anthea?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
And I vote yes.
Great. So just a couple updates on non-agenda items. Work on the Winchester Center train station project is moving forward, and the MBTA has notified us that they will be working to replace the existing brick sidewalk on the southern end of the Quill Rotary as they near completion of the station project later this summer. Work on that sidewalk area is expected to begin on April 7th and will continue for approximately 1 month. There will be active work in that area, and so there will be pedestrian detours with police details out there during construction hours to help folks get around. They're working with our police, engineering, and DPW to set those work zones up. Also, the town manager's office has started on an update to our town website through our provider Civic Plus. This website update will incorporate suggestions from the communication study and the website improvement plan that we finished up last fall with the Collins Center, and we hope to have this project fully completed by summer or early fall. Construction projects, we have several projects currently out to bid. I'll just highlight a few of the projects that are ongoing. So first up, construction has started on the Winchester High School gym floor. So that is an exciting project to be moving forward this spring. We also have currently out to bid repairs for the Winchester High School concrete floor, which is a project that we will expect to see additional funding request at Springtown meeting. And then we also have our DPW is working on the installation of a few different rapid flashing beacons. So last year, the board approved funds for the installation of a rapid flashing beacon at Children's Own School on Main Street. And DPW has ordered that piece of equipment and hopes to be able to install it this spring. And they've also they're in the process of procuring the RFB to be installed at Mystic School at Main Street as well, near Sims Corner. And we also hope to have that done later this spring. When we had DPW in here, when we were talking about that, when we had Matt here, when we were talking about those RFBs a few weeks ago, we were still waiting on the grant for the RFB at the intersection of Cox Road and Johnson Road. So we have not heard about that yet, but hopefully we'll have that information soon.
Is a decision expected by the end of March, April?
It was like
we know?
2 months ago, I think. So yeah.
So spring started on the 20th.
I think I applied in August for this.
Okay, so we wait.
I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. And I know that there's a public hearing on government regulations tomorrow evening on Zoom. I think I'm going to plan to attend and give at least ask some questions, but okay. Thank you, Beth. Is anybody here for public comment on a topic that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll take public comment, I think, as we take up certain topics, but then we'll move into our public hearing then. So Jackie and Matt, if you'd like to join us at the table, we're going to open our public hearing on the Eversource grant of location for Highland Avenue to install approximately 10 feet of conduit and the public right-of-way to provide electric service to 407 Highland Avenue. If anybody from the music school wishes to come on up to the table, or anybody else is here for public comment on that, please come on up. And usually, I think we start with Matt, the engineer, then we'll go to Jackie from Eversource, and then we'll hear. Okay, go ahead, Jackie.
Jackie Duffy, Eversource,
fine.
would like to install 10 feet of conduit in Highland Avenue to provide electric service to 407 Highland Avenue, which is the Winchester Community Music School.
Yep. And Matt, all the paperwork's in order?
We didn't have any comments or concerns.
Okay.
And I'm Lori Russell, the Executive Director of the Winchester Community Music School, and we are aware of the project and would like to proceed.
Yes, excellent. Okay. So finding everything in order, does any other member of the public wish to comment on this public hearing on this grant of location? If you do, raise your hand or come on up. Okay. Any questions for Jackie or music school or? Okay, that's pretty easy. So we can take, we'll take a vote and we'll close the public hearing.
Move that we approve the Eversource grant of location to install approximately 10 feet of conduit in the public right-of-way to provide electric service to 407 Highland Avenue.
Second.
Okay, to a roll call vote starting with Bill.
Aye.
Excellent. All right, Mike.
Yes.
Paris. Anthea.
Yes.
And I vote yes. And thank you, Jackie. Thanks for being here. And we will close the public hearing at this point. Thank you. We have no licenses, so our next order of business, we'll turn it over to Beth for Select Board reorganization.
Thank you. So I would open the floor for nominations for the chair of the Select Board for the town of Winchester.
I can do this. I'll nominate Michelle Pryor to continue as chair of the Select Board.
Second.
There is one nomination and a second. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no further nominations, close the nomination process and call for a vote to serve for Michelle Pryor to serve as the chair of the Select Board. I'll do a roll call. Anthea?
Yes.
Paras?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
Michelle?
Yes.
Congratulations.
You can't back out now. It's done.
Beth wanted to get rid of me. She just lost.
Do you want me to do the
Yes, if you could do the vice chair,
Sure.
please.
So I will open the floor for nominations of vice chair for the select board for the town of Winchester.
And I'll nominate Anthea Brady to be vice chair of the select board for the town of Winchester.
Second.
Great. There's one nomination and 1 second. Are there any other nominations?
New guy? No.
Hearing no further nominations, I will close the nomination process and call for a vote on the position of vice chair for Anthea Brady. And I'll do a roll call. Michelle?
Yes?
Mike?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
Anthea?
Yes.
Congratulations to you both.
Yes? Would you like to stay in your seat or move closer?
I want to stay here. We're reopening social distancing, given the select
A bunch of
board's-
us are a little sick today of various types, so.
select board's variety of viruses.
And thank you to Anthea for being willing to serve as vice chair and reading the motions and stepping up tonight. We had talked earlier, and I'm grateful for your interest and grateful for your support today and ongoing. So thank you. So we'll just stay in our seats. That's easy. And Bill, when you come back, your seat will move, but we'll deal with that next time. Okay.
Yep, I think this means I don't have to turn to see the TV, and that's worth it.
Correct. That is true. Okay, the next on our agenda is the Chamber of Commerce, Bellino, and Elliott Park's lighting requests. So if anyone wants to come up on that, come on up. And we have your letter in the packet, and if you'd like, just like to introduce yourself, who you are, where you live, and I think we understand what you're trying to do, but any details around any time of year, or will it be year-round maintenance, installation, those kinds of logistical questions, and then the board, if they have questions, will ask. So
sure.
if you'd like to take it away, go right ahead.
I'm Julie Fish. I live on Hemingway Street. I'm serving as the president of the Chamber of Commerce. And on my right, I have Lucille Murray. She's the founder of the Lights of Love organization. And a dear friend, and then, Dana
And I'm
Garmy.
Dana Garmy, the executive director of the chamber.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead, Julie.
The Chamber has an initiative this year to enhance the upper Main Street section of Main Street. So Stop and Shop to, say, Swan Street to Cross Street. It's long been kind of overlooked, neglected. But so our first initiative is to illuminate Bellino Park and Elliott Park like we do the downtown street trees. And we want to support the businesses and create more of an inviting atmosphere for residents of Winchester and that area and visitors as well, and kind of create a continuity between that section of Main Street and downtown, so you have an awareness that you're in Winchester. That part of the area has kind of gotten a lot of attention from last year with the rezoning of the MBTA. But the reality is those properties are privately owned, so change is probably not going to happen immediately. But the lights are kind of our way of kind of having a good impact at our expense. And the Lights of Love, in collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce, has generously donated the funds to light, and the DPW has supported us by installing the lights. So we just need permission. So I talked to Bob at the DPW about the trees because, especially at Bellino Park, it's really a developed park now, and it's beautiful year-round, and it creates some screening from the park view, which is not everyone's favorite style of architecture, but and it's a well-used park. So we are just hoping that the trees would maintain their health, but we can illuminate them through the evening hours. So we're proposing to do it year-round, like downtown is. I don't know exactly the time that they come on, but it would probably be like a dusk till maybe like 10 or 11 p.m., whatever would be reasonable. And then Bob suggested we could just monitor the lights each year just to make sure that they're, the health is utmost important of the trees, wrap them loosely around the trunk, and then the canopy as well. So I don't think there'd be any impact to the trees, the health of the trees, but that is definitely important to the chamber.
And this is similar to the what you've done in the center.
Yeah, so it would have the same style. We wrap the trunks, and then the canopy would be white lights.
Has there been any impact on the tree canopy?
I don't believe so. I've talked to Bob. He said none at all. And then, the Lights of Love organization, it's a really beautiful organization. It's for the deceased children of Winchester. And so just broadening that exposure and just kind of warms the heart and thinks,
So
care of everybody.
I'll note your application, or at least what's in our packet, is dusk until 11 o'clock. So if we approve tonight, those are the hours. I would just ask if we hear from neighbors in either location that they prefer a 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Will you be,
Oh, yeah.
open to adjusting that?
Yeah, I think absolutely.
Okay. Sort of, that's what we've asked for. Is that what the downtown schedule is right now? Do they go off at 11?
I actually don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Does
anybody know?
I don't think so.
They go off later, do you
Do you
think?
think they go off later?
They're probably a little past 11, and they're still on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not any less.
Yeah, I would say 11 is probably better, just because there are some residents
Yes.
that have bought the, especially Bolino Park. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I think that's fine. I think if the town center is midnight or whatever, and we're starting with 11, if the town manager's office or others or you here,
Yeah.
will just ask you to potentially shut them off at a different time, since they're on a timer, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not opposed to shutting them off at any time, in other words, as far as that goes.
Great.
Well understood,
Yep, great. Anything else you want to tell us before I open up to questions?
That's it.
Okay, thank you for doing so. Questions? I'll start with Mike.
No, all set, thank you.
Okay. Pars, no.
No questions.
Bill, any questions? Not that you can see our guests.
And I'm sorry if it's already come up, but is there any sort of ongoing maintenance for these lights that the town have to worry about?
That's, the Lights of Love does that.
Yeah.
As they go out, we replace them.
So the chamber and the lights together, was it 2 years ago?
Right, yeah.
Replaced all of the lights downtown because they were fading. So yes, there is
Right.
that will be the responsibility of the chamber and the Lights of Love going forward for Bolino Park and
Okay,
Highlight Park.
great, thank you. That's all I had to ask.
Do you have your hand up to make public comment?
Yeah. Question?
Could you please come to the table?
Sure.
Please come to the table adjacent and state your name and go right ahead.
Carl Rexer, and just a question on that. Who would be responsible for turning the lights off? And I just wondered if it would be something that DPW would have to take on. And do we know anything about the energy consumed by the lights?
The DPW, just like they do with the downtown lights, would take charge of the new park lights. I don't know about energy consumption. That would be a DPW question.
All of the lights that we just purchased with the Lights of Love, they're new, so they're like low.
The LED.
Yeah, the low LED.
They make them now, so
yeah.
they do last as far as that, and they don't take much energy as far as if you're thinking of the cost of the.
So these
yeah.
would be purchased brand new, so they would be, using
Yeah,
the lowest.
they'll be the new, how we have
Yeah.
those light bulbs, we all use them in our homes now.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll be a financial concern,
And I don't know what the DPW does, but I'm going to assume it's some kind of timer, like probably
think it
something
is. It
kind of
must be a timer.
rudimentary.
That's what I was
Have
Yeah,
that.
Dana,
Also
Dana, they
asked
must
you
be on a
about turning
time.
them off at,
Yeah.
at 11 versus 10. I was wondering if you had to physically
Oh,
be
I
one
no.
doing
No.
it.
No.
No.
Yeah, Bob has it kind of, he's just ready
programmed.
for us to say yes, and then he's got it.
But if you're volunteering, Carl, the job is open for you.
The good news is our DPW does a great job that no one knows how they do it, or it just happens. So that's great.
Yeah, no, I have all their names, and I do send them notes and give them gifts for their work and time, but as far as, the timing of it is, I think it's dusk, they go on automatically.
Yeah.
And that's probably, yeah.
It's probably
So
like,
we
you
don't
could set it
have
for
to- yeah.
4 or 5 or 6 hours or something. I have one of those at my house, so.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks for the question.
yeah, I mean, the chamber, and the Lights of Love work together on that.
So the same as what the other ones are downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any
The
other?
other thing I would say, Michelle, too, is that there is an added value to some of the lighting with security and making people feel more comfortable walking through the park at night, walking
Yeah.
their dogs and doing things. They seem like they're small, but in aggregate, it does add a lot of soft light to the area. So
Yeah.
It does, yeah. And coming down here, I drove past Bellino and someone was wearing like a high-vis vest and a flashlight going through the park, and it was pitch black. Like all you saw was this flashlight. So it is a really both the parks are really well used. So it's a little bit of safety there.
It's a good shout out for the public benefit. Thanks, Mike.
there you go.
Yeah.
I don't have a dog to walk, so there's that.
Well, I'd just say thank you for the project. I think it'll really help the
Yeah,
Main
we're
Street area,
hoping-
which is a little bit underloved to see.
Right,
something
yeah,
now.
we're
It's
hoping
great.
that would kind of will, no pun intended, but shine a little light on that area. Everyone will kind of take a little bit of ownership to their properties
And it'd be probably used more.
Shine it up
because,
a little bit,
You know, like
yeah.
you said, if you go in it after, in the wintertime, if you go in after 5 o'clock, it's black, it's
Yeah.
dark, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
So now this would lighten that up and bring warmth to that area.
And thank you for doing so, Lights of Love and the Chamber for doing so. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any additional questions? Otherwise, I think we can entertain a motion.
Move that we approve to move forward with the Chamber of Commerce's request to install decorative lighting on the select trees in Bellino and Elliott Parks.
Second.
I'll do a roll call vote. Bill?
Aye.
Anthea?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
All right,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate, you'll be happy when you see it.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have a couple of education department topics. I see the chair here. Come on up.
Superintendent's right outside.
Okay.
I believe it's supposed to be Dr. Hackett and our finance director, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to join them.
Why don't you join us, Ms. Milanese?
I believe they are going.
I don't want to sit with a keyboard. That's anything I have.
I won't be offended.
I don't think it's going to do much. Might move that slide once, but.
Stick around.
Okay, so we have two topics tonight, SPED reserve release of funds, and then we have Morocco statement of interest. So I guess we'll start with the SPED reserve. Andrew, do we have any, I assume you don't have slides, but we have your memo, and I had some questions, but maybe I'll go last and see if the board has any questions. This is a fund controlled by the select board and the school committee, so we need to take a vote to release funds out of it. I know I heard from the chair maybe a few weeks ago. We agreed that this would be kind of the meeting in which we'd take it up. And I'm just going to have some questions on details, but I will go last. I'll leave it, maybe I'll start with Anthea and see if she has any questions specific to that ask.
My question would be just related to the increase in special ed transportation, and whether, obviously this is sort of above what was anticipated, if just this based on number of students or if this based on just actual transportation costs going up.
In terms of the increase we noted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so we partner with SEAM, a local cooperative, and they manage the transportation and they contract with NRT. And so the contract, I believe, previously was an 8-year contract they had that expired, that went out to bid. And so that increase is baked into that contract, so that they're not gone up in 8 years. And so we saw that 35% increase, and there will be incremental increases over the coming years.
Okay.
So it's truly contracted.
Great. That's my only question.
They settled after town meeting. So.
I was just thinking that. It came after town meeting.
Yeah.
It approved our budget.
Any other questions?
That's
Okay.
it for me.
Same question, so good.
Okay. Mike?
No, I just wanted to comment that this really is the exact reason that we created the reserve fund. And over the years, we've struggled with this when we've had unexpected and unanticipated costs come through for SPED issues, which that's how they happen. They're determinations that come in at multiple times of the year. So I'm happy to support this. And it's I think the transportation piece is is one that we're going to have to really talk about for the next override part of the State of the Town Committee, because transportation across the board just keeps increasing, whether it be for SPED or for athletics or for just day-to-day school transportation. So I'm not surprised, but it's, again, what this fund is for. So thank you for the request.
Okay. Bill, any questions?
Nope, this is what we have it for, so happy to have it.
Okay, so I usually have a couple. So when we vote this, not if we vote this, there will be about $80,000 left in the account, if I'm just looking at some quick math. And my questions are twofold. For transportation, do you expect, is this a $257,000 kind of year-over-year increase? Was this catching up to a contract, or is that kind of the increased annual cost of transportation? I'm looking at Karen, but really should be looking at Andrew.
Yes, so it's catching us up this year. In our FY26 budget request, we've brought that up to where it needs to be for next year.
Okay. And then tuition is for, is it through June 30 tuition? Is it end of the school year tuition?
And so
it's not summer tuition. I'm just curious in terms of like when that gets expended.
Correct. So similar transportation, it's catching us up this year through June, and then we're budgeting for that increase next year in our presented budget.
Okay. I think those are my questions. So if someone, and Billy, I think you said no. I did call on you. Okay. So I think we can entertain a motion.
Move that we approve $364,746 to be funded by the SPED Reserve Fund due to unanticipated unbudgeted costs associated with special education transportation and out-of-district tuitions.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. I'll start with Mike.
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Anthea?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Okay. There you go. I don't know if you need to work with the comptroller to release that fund, but I'll leave you to figure out the details.
Thank you.
And pay those bills. Okay.
Thank you.
So next up is Morocco School, MSBA Statement of Interest. I understand we're not quite ready for that tonight, but maybe you can give an update and timelines, or what are you going to need from us?
The actual SOI is due through the MSBA's system on April 11th, which is a Friday. We are still kind of working through the SOI. The SOI isn't like the process of submitting. We don't have to do an educational plan. We don't have to do what we're looking to expand on. It's really a statement of current conditions for the most part, and then we would declare what priorities we'd be actually submitting for. Generally, one of the priorities historically or traditionally that gets the highest rating is being overcrowded. We're not in a place where we can say that with Morocco, but there are plenty of things that we can talk about in terms of just the appropriateness of some of the educational program space, spaces being used in ways that they weren't designed for, general flow of the building, the fact that we have lunch and cafegimatorium, purpose room. So we have plenty to submit on. There's a lot of the SOIs. What was the year that was built? When was the last time there was any kind of significant work done to it? So it is pretty straightforward. And the vote eventually would be for really authorizing me to submit it. And all it does is it gets us into the lottery. So at that point, they go through, they look at you've been through this before, they look at all the statements of interest, and then they do their rating, and then they eventually will select some that they'll go out and actually do site visits on, and then they'll whittle that down to the school systems that they actually invite into eligibility. So they're doing more with less. It's hard to say where we'll land. A lot of it depends on who's submitting and what grade levels are being submitted for. I think the state has, since the Lynch SOI was approved, they have done a lot of elementary school projects, but they're kind of moving into more expensive high school projects currently. So I'm not sure how they're going to look at it, but we can't win if we don't buy a ticket. So
when did we submit Lynch's SOI? I know it comes online this fall. The override vote was January of 2023. When did we do the letter of interest?
I believe
So it was submitted 3 times, and when I had first come onto school committee in 2019, I think was the 3rd time, and then it was approved in December of 2019. So for those 3 years running.
Yes, there's
long
stuff.
process.
And I think
17,
that we-
18, 19.
I think we submitted for Morocco and Lynch at the same
You
time.
did, and then you
Yep.
selected, right, I think? You
Yep.
chose,
Was that 3 years the exclusion vote, is what you're saying?
Yep.
It can be, yeah.
Well, in that case.
Yeah.
And obviously, if it takes a few submissions, do you need multiple votes of the select board if you submit and then submit again? Or is it,
We would submit based on this vote. If we don't get divided, we'd be back to you. If that's, we're going to do it again, then we'd be back to you again to submit again the following
Okay.
year, at this time of year.
okay,
Right, right.
all right.
Yeah, and just from a process perspective, it's just school committee, select board,
Yes, yep.
and school committee's voting when?
The school committee will be voting, they will be voting first, so they'll vote, and
They have
then
a
it comes to
meeting
you.
before
Yeah,
do.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. There's been some conversation, I think, around a joint meeting, but I'm not sure. Don't know.
Oh, let us know if you want a joint meeting, that's fine.
Well,
We're happy to
Yeah.
hang out.
Oh, yes.
We
You have
also,
an April 7th meeting?
April 7th is our next meeting.
yeah, it might be an easier way to get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. So if we need something off-cycle, just we'll work together.
Yeah. Right.
But April 7th is when we will convene again. We don't anticipate a kind of a one-off between now and then, but if it's due by the 11th, and that gives you enough time,
That's, yeah, as long as it
Okay.
goes through. Be
yes.
scrambling if we had to rewrite it.
Okay, yep,
And I think that if it's provided to us by our
You'll-
April 7th meeting, then we can vote on it. We don't necessarily need the
Correct.
school committee here. We don't need
No, we
the
shouldn't.
superintendent or anybody to come back, right?
we don't
I mean,
expect
so-
to have the superintendent back. We would need the materials by like close of business the 3rd, morning of the 4th to get into our packet. I suspect if we had questions, we could just ask somebody to dial in, but it's a pretty straightforward process. Mike, I know you have some experience with it, and we just need a vote to authorize the superintendent to sign it, so, yeah.
Perfect. We'll get it to you ahead of time.
Okay.
And just as an aside, on the cafeterimatorium, Morocco has very much outgrown that and used the high school for its science fair last week, which was really cool because the kids took over the entire cafeteria there with their
I saw them
tables.
as they were coming out. Yeah.
It is a great space.
Yep.
It's kind of nice in a way for them to see the high school too, but it'd be better to have it on in your own school.
It's also much quieter and much cooler than being crammed in there.
Okay. Any other updates on the statement of interest before I turn over to other questions?
I'm looking forward to it.
Pretty straightforward. Bill, any questions for the superintendent or Andrew or the chair?
Not for right now, but no, not for right now.
Okay. Make sure you get those then in advance of April 7th. If we're going to have questions for them, but I guess we'll see what's in the packet. So stay tuned. And if we want to have a joint meeting, that's fine. Let's just work out schedules. If you want to do that on Zoom,
Yep.
in person. I can't speak for everybody, but we'll certainly try to accommodate it. But April 7th might be fine too. Okay. So I have one question before you leave, which is right after you is Green Communities Grant, Energy
I was
Management.
looking at that.
Yes. Well, we wanted to get some of our guests in earlier and take care of business, internal business later. So we have a memo in our packet, and there's a statement, working with school administration to better understand and solve the problem of funds. And is there a plan to work through kind of the contributions? It seems like some of the money has not been flowing in the same way, but I'm just curious if you are working with energy on solving that, because I don't know that the select board needs to jump in there, but maybe you can give us an update.
Sure. So in regards to this grant, we've been working with the Energy Management Committee has been meeting, and I've been working with Mr. Pruitt and Mr. Lawson on reviewing the needs of the grant and then also the funding portion of it. So I know there is a gap there for funding our part of the grant. So the plan currently is that facilities is pitching in some money through their budget, I believe around 10 grand. And I projected out the next 2 quarters what we expect to send to the Energy Revolving Fund. So we see that part being available for this grant. And then the schools are sending, I think, a matching component of about 14 or 15 grand from our building rental revolving fund. So altogether, that fills that delta, I believe, around 30 grand or so.
And when do you intend to take that vote? Because I think we'll hear about the timing of the application coming up soon as well.
So the committee will vote on it on Thursday. They're actually voting on the construction and the change to the actual facility. They don't need to actually vote on the funding from the rental revolving account.
You can just distribute that from the rental revolving account.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other Okay, so Carl, do you have a question, I suppose? We saved your seat right here at the table. I know this is our next order of business, but it does have some school piece of it, so.
Yeah, it does.
Carl, do you know, I assume?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Rexer, I'm chair of the Energy Management Committee, in case everyone else doesn't know. So the grant for that is $125,000, which we've been helping to coordinate. We've already earmarked $10,000 from our energy revolving fund to go to it. Facilities, and talking with Pete, has already also allocated $10,000 from his facilities budget to go to this much-needed update of the pneumatic controls on McCall. So we were looking for $31,060 to come from the school budget towards that. Not from your contributions to the Energy Revolving Fund, because that's money for the Energy Revolving Fund comes from you to the EMC, and we control what projects that gets allocated to. You do not choose whether you want to earmark it to McCall or not. We might have other things that we need to use that money for. So we were looking for the $31,060 to get that matching and to get that grant of the $125 to get the work done at McCall.
Okay, that's a different ask than we understood. So we understand the management, the mechanics, and the authorization of who controls what funds. For those of you who know, I mean, the rental revolving account, when we rent the facility, that's where the money comes from that goes to the Energy Management Committee, and we understand that you control that, but we did not understand that you were asking, the ask was for $30,000 from the school department independently. So we'll need to regroup.
Yeah, the whole cost, I believe, is $167, if I'm getting it right, $167 for the remaining work that needs to be done at McCall. And this, we've already invested over $400,000 in previous versions of the work on those controls, which, for the sake of the other people in the room, these are the actual little unit ventilators, and many of them are not functioning properly in the McCall School. So some rooms get very hot, some rooms get very cold, and then these have to be sort of more manually adjusted, or people are opening windows or doing other things to try to overcome the faulty heating system. So we've been through many other parts of the building and have already updated many of them, and this is the last set to get McCall working.
When the school department contributed over, so I think $150,000 out of ESSER funding.
$185,000.
But this 30, I was just to understand, it's just a local match to unlock the green communities.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, so the 125 will be coming to Winchester from outside of Winchester, exactly. But we need to basically that's why we're dividing this up between the other areas to try to come up with the matching funds needed to get that $125,000 to grant to finish this. And some of that other work on the controls also came from other grants that we're able to procure, and as well as from schools, so absolutely.
So you will take that offline if you want to stay, because next up is Energy Management's presentation, if you guys want to stick around for a minute and hear more about the details and what's planned. So I think we've morphed a little into the next item of business, but
I'll step back and
that's okay. Because I just wanted to ask the question because it was just a statement here, and I wasn't sure if there was an ask of the select board at this time around money or the comptroller, I guess, but it doesn't sound like it. But
I think it's up to the school committee to understand that ask, which I thought was clear, but we're apologizing if that wasn't clear of what the ask was, to vote on that money so that this, and there's also, this is somewhat time sensitive because I believe it's the end of next week is when things need to be finalized if we're going to try to get that grant money.
Okay.
And if we can't get it for this, we might want to try to still go for the Green Communities Grant and to do other things in town. So we do need to sort of know if we're putting up the money.
By the end of the week.
Yeah.
Okay. Just need to clarify that.
What is the timing on the grant award? Sorry, you guys are coming up next. I can hold that question.
Yeah. Why don't we hold it? Maybe sooner than a rapid flashing beacon would be nice, right? You weren't here for that. So do we anticipate, or Carl or Ms. McPhee, do you anticipate any other questions for schools? Because I would ask them to just stick around for an extra 5 minutes. But otherwise, I would say thank you for coming on the topics that we had.
Thank you for the support.
Yeah, thank you.
We always love schools to stick around for our part of the meetings if you have availability. For the next few minutes, we will be quick. And since many of the buildings in town are our schools, a lot of the work that the Energy Management Committee does impacts the schools and is for the benefit of the schools.
Okay. So if you can stick around, thank you, and maybe just switch seats. If you want to jump into Dr. Hackett's seat, go back to the first row. And then I think Ms. McPhee is here. Anybody else from Energy here for this particular item? All right. Okay, we'll make sure we wait. Anthea can have her question. I'm sure she's going to remember it, but you can go ahead and get yourself ready. And
okay, I have
the timing is important, right? I know you have some details, and maybe a little more detail on, the controls, how long it might take.
Yeah.
I know we may not get the grant, so this whole discussion of matching funds may be moot if we don't get the grant, but we want to make the case, it sounds like.
Right. Do you remember when the work could be done on those? Because I don't know
the grant is due, sorry, I'll wait till I'm at my, the grant is due on April 4th. It would be announced in probably late September or early October. The contracting takes about 8 weeks usually, and then it would be a matter of when we can schedule and if any of the equipment has a long lead time. Ever since the pandemic, there's not a lot of stuff on shelves, so I would imagine it would probably be done a year from now, something like that, maybe shoulder season of spring, so we're not going in there and, when it's potentially very cold.
Okay.
So unfortunately, there's a lead time, so that the students will unfortunately need to exist in the classrooms for a little bit longer before those repairs can be made, but we'll try to get them done as soon as possible.
Yep.
And is the target a certain floor at McCall? Is it a wing? A, B, C, D, E?
So glad you asked. Yes. So over time, Pete Lawson and the facilities team has been working really hard with capital, with everybody. They've done, so all the new things that have come online have electronic controls for the HVAC. The old wings have been done one at a time, focusing on the classroom. So the last piece of this is actually the admin, the A wing that kind of, it's like the letter E. It's the stick on the E. So it kind of brings everything together. So up until now, Pete has control of pieces of the building, but this is what gives him control of the entire building. So it's kind of the last straw in bringing the whole project together. So it's going to save the town a whole lot of effort, time, plus energy. It's really, Pete's been looking forward to this for, 15 years.
It does save the Pete and his team time in not having to be going around and trying to manually change things too.
Right, and it'll make, the admin has been an uncomfortable area, so it'll make that area a whole lot more, the cooling will be, instead of window bangers, it might be actual cooling and things like that. So it's getting us to a more modern building.
Okay. Go back to your presentations.
Okay. So some of the other things we wanted to share with you, let me start with a couple things, then hand it over to you.
Sure.
Is as to, again, especially with some new members, to make sure that people knew the Energy Management Committee exists and what our function is, but also some of the newer, more recent things we've been involved in, and then Susan could say a little bit about the history and some of the older things that we've done around town too. So a couple of the recent things would be getting about 69 to 70,000 in Green Communities grant money to replace the transformers at McCall, the water treatment plant, and installing LED lighting at McCall. We've been going around all the buildings basically over the past decade now, and always replacing lights to go more and more energy efficient with our lighting systems, saving the town a lot of money. And a lot of the work is grant funded, so we're bringing grants from outside to help do that work. We got a $75,000 block grant from Mass DOER, approved by the Select Board earlier this month, and this grant combined with $27,000 from the Energy Revolving Fund that we were just talking about, and $11,000 from the Rec Department is going to be replacing windows in the Mystic School. That's the school down that's used by the Rec Department and the after-school program in the nursing school area. So there's some windows there that were ancient glass block, and we're just allowing just energy and coldness to be just flowing right into the building, and those are going to be replaced with that that you all just approved earlier this month. Lastly, another recent thing is we've been working with school committee and the EFPBC on the Lynch Elementary School, helping to keep energy saving design forefront in people's thoughts as we do that. And we're excited that it is going to be a net zero building when it's completed. So the high school, when we completed that, was a LEED Gold standard energy building. And now our newest building, Lynch, will be net zero. And we're very excited to be helping towards that.
Great.
Some of the older things, Susan can tell you about a few of the older projects, just again to give context to the newer members.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Susan McPhee. I'm the Energy Conservation Coordinator, and we've been working with Energy Management Committee since about 2006, believe it or not. So the committee's been around for a while, and we've been trying to take advantage of every single thing that we can to get grant money, and then that gets combined with utility incentive money. So what you know at your home is Mass Save, where you can get a free audit, you can get insulation. The corollary for that for the town is through the utilities. So green communities, we qualified as a green community. We jumped through about 5 different hoops in 2008 and 9, and you sign up to try to save 20% of your overall energy usage when you become a green community. And we finally achieved that about 2 years ago. So we've been working hard on it. But part of the reason that it took so long is energy management started out in 2006. So we had already done a lot of the low-hanging fruit projects that other towns had not touched. So I reckon that we actually are at about more like 40% savings compared to 2006 when energy management started work. So it's pretty impressive. I bet we've saved at least $8 million cumulatively. I think we probably save in avoided costs at least $400,000 or $500,000 annually because of all the projects that we've done. Every light is LED. We're off of oil everywhere except the dog pound at the transfer station. So all these things one by one have really saved a lot. When we opened the high school, Carl alluded to the fact that we made LEED Gold. The high school used to use 35% of the town's total energy use just in that one building. So when we built the new school, we added 10,000 square feet and we reduced the usage by about 60%. So it's really pretty incredible.
It's a pretty staggering number, actually.
Yeah, it is. It's a bigger building. It uses less energy.
More like
and
the 35%
and it's more comfortable.
back in the day.
And it's more comfortable.
Yeah. So we're constantly trying to keep an eye on where we can find the next project, where is there new technology coming in that we can use when we open new schools like the Lynch. It'll be great. Morocco right now is our most energy inefficient along with the rec. So we're looking forward to the improvements at the rec that we're coming up to, and then also a rebuilt Morocco. So the rebuilt Vincent Owen, this is another good one. The rebuilt Vincent Owen uses about 70% of the energy that the old building used, but it's 3 times the size of the old building. So it's just incredible, these old buildings that are really porous, and then you build a new building, much bigger but much tighter and much more efficient. So it's all a good news story. The street lights, oh, that was my favorite project. So the first thing we did with energy money, we replaced all the street lights around town with LEDs, and we use literally less than half the electricity to light the entire town.
That's saving our energy bill a lot.
Yeah. I just want to point out one last thing. I did share one screenshot from, we have a system called Mass Energy Insight that updates from our bills, so from our actual gas usage and our actual electricity usage. It doesn't, solar and oil, we have to input diesel and gasoline, but this gives you a snapshot of the town's total usage, and this is what we're measured against. It's like our report card for green communities. So you can see down at the bottom where there's the yellow arrow. So last year we used 55,000 MMBTUs compared to our baseline in 2010 when we became a green community of 81,000. So the town towns is using 32% less energy. But think of what we've done. I mean, McCall is probably like a third bigger, the high school's bigger. I mean, we've got a lot more square footage that we're supporting with that. We keep adding portables on schools. As soon as we build something, we run out of space. So we've expanded our footprint quite a great deal, and yet we're using 35% less energy. So this is one of the report cards I like to look at. Another thing just to point out, our built environment is about 85%. So it's all in the buildings. It would be great if we could get electric fire engines, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. So it's all about the buildings. So we're constantly looking at what we can do in our buildings to try to cut back the usage and make people more comfortable all at the same time.
Although we are still trying to get vehicles and other things turned over when possible.
Yeah.
We do have an electric pickup truck that Pete is driving and is very happy with. So when it came time to replace vehicles, we try to look to replace them with electric vehicles
Yes.
whenever possible. It's not as easily possible with something like a fire truck.
That's right, or plow trucks. There's currently nothing electric that you can plow with. I think that's going to be the big game changer on vehicles, is we can finally put a plow on something that's electric. The other thing I will add, when you talk to the police, ask them how their hybrids are doing, because we should have hybrid patrol cars. So that's the one thing we've been able to do, is you can get as a standard hybrid patrol cars, and some fleets are actually going all electric. The Mustang seems to be a favorite.
That's one of the two remaining steps, correct, for Climate Leader to get to the next level is fleet decarbonization and building. Am I correct in that?
You need to have a plan for fleet decarbonization, because the vehicles are so expensive.
You can't get a fire truck that's electric.
Exactly. So when possible, a roadmap and doing it whenever possible, so that the first choice should be electric, or something, which right now electric is the only thing that would be emission free, before you go to a gas vehicle.
Okay.
I saw the superintendent's face when you talked about electric vehicles. They also have an electric van for food service.
Absolutely, that's right.
My
Yes.
case is more about school buses. That's what I thought.
Okay.
It makes me nervous, but no, we do. We have a
Service van.
Yeah, food service van.
Yes.
Working out great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So I guess the only other thing in closing is just that we again look forward to continue to work with all the different groups we work with. The EFPBC, in terms of building the buildings, is one of our great partners. School committees, school departments, and select board have all been supportive of this, and we're working together to save the town lots of money. As well as being greener. But the main purpose right now here is really trying to reduce usage, which saves us money.
Yep.
So everyone wins. On the Energy Revolving Fund, we had originally been actually working to try to talk to the controller to get past history of what are the invoices, because we're trying to look forward to better being able to plan how much money we will have coming into the Energy Revolving Fund from the building rentals. And that money is, again, used for these various grants for energy efficiency projects. And so we were told that controller's not the person to talk to. So we'll be coming to you, just to give you a heads up, to try to get some history of the past several years of building rentals, and what that line item is for the Energy Revolving Fund, so that we can better plan the next several years, so we know how much money will be coming in and what sort of grants we can apply for and use that money, what projects we can use that money for. So we'll be coming to talk to you.
Okay. And if you need some help from the comptroller, let us know, or if we need to have a meeting, or if she's at one,
we're trying
let
to
us
figure
know.
out who to talk to get the building rental stuff. So anyway,
It's the age-old question. Who do I need to talk to about this? It's fair. Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
And
Thank
is there
you
any
for...
questions, though?
Oh, go ahead, Paris.
Just one
Thanks for
quick
sticking around.
question, because Dr. Hackett made a comment on buses, but don't know what you're getting at on that. Does this data include contracted, so there's diesel consumption through North Suburban, it's obviously not municipally owned fleet. Is that data reflected here?
No, we don't have any visibility into that.
Okay.
Yeah. And since we don't own our school bus fleet,
Right.
if we owned our school bus fleet, then we would be focused on that. But since we don't.
But the emissions are there either way, whether we
I know.
procure the fleet or
Right.
not.
Right. So-
whether we procure the service or we procure the fleet with the service, the emissions are either way. So
Right.
my point is there are still projects that are worthwhile to do that.
Yes, and
Yes.
we have tried to influence that process, and that is by communicating that our desire is to choose vendors that provide us with cleaner energy. So if we had options for contracting to get cleaner,
Yeah, there's a company called
cleaner buses.
Highland who specializes in electric buses and doing a contract for electric buses. So, for example, if school committee said they would prefer electric buses, then they could make that a part of the contracting process, and it could be part of the
So the
conversation.
reason I raise it is that, I think the town of Andover is 30 out of 40 electric buses today. Beverly is similar. There's a few kind of leaders on it. There are non-financial byproducts when it's sort of direct diesel emissions, because the kids are literally breathing
Kids
that.
are right there.
They're right there breathing tailpipe emissions. So just to consider, I appreciate it's not in your data,
Yes.
but there's actually health byproducts.
What we've run into is that most of the suburban communities in Boston do lease because there aren't lay-down places for parking. So it's a challenge to, maybe we should work with our peer communities to try to work with the lessees, or whatever you say. But it's been a real strategy.
in Arlington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could
You get my point.
just add to that. We can write in a requirement or preference for electric buses. The issue here is that we got one vendor bidding the last time we went out for bid, and we generally have fairly small kind of mom and pop transportation companies that just don't have the resources to build out the infrastructure for the charging stations and the buses and all that. So until there's some infusion, I think, of some kind of funding from the state or from somewhere else for those smaller companies to be able to do that, it's going to be really hard for them to move over to electric fleets.
Yeah.
And the
There's-
competition for bidding with the bus companies, it's just not there.
And we included in our last bid, we put an electric spec. The price was
It was
3 times what.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to derail.
Yeah. No.
No, just so you
some
know,
of these things take
also,
time.
we have a shared interest in it.
Absolutely.
It's just really, right now, the market's just not.
And some economies of scale that really need to catch up, right, with demand.
I think,
So-
for your point around it's not one town that's going to be able to do it of our scale anyway. Maybe Boston can do it on their own, but it's going to be a
Yeah.
And so we've seen these things evolving slowly, so that there didn't used to be anything that could possibly function as a police car. Oh, now there are some things that could function as a police car. There's not anything now that can work as a snowplow, but in the future we imagine there will be, and when there is, we will be trying to push for it. Same with school buses, and trying to any other vehicles that we can. I believe we had a street sweeper that we.
Yeah, there's now an electric street sweeper that is close enough in price. It's not close, it's a lot more expensive, but we could get grant money to fill the gap, and of course it came the year after we bought a new street sweeper.
Picture like this, like Roomba on wheels.
Still has to drive.
Going down the
Still
road.
has to drive.
Plug it in, send it down the street. Hey, someone out there, build it. Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for sticking around, our school friends. And good luck with the grant.
Thank you.
And let us know if we can help in any way. Thank you. Appreciate you being here, all of you. Good night. Okay. Next up, pickleball courts. So we have Friends of Rec. I know we have the Rec Department Director. If anybody else is here to talk about pickleball courts, I will ask for public comment at some point, but come on up. By all means, you can introduce yourself. We do have a new member, Paris, and if he did not meet with you, he might have been one of the only people he didn't meet with. But please introduce yourself for the record, if you could.
I'll start. I'm Marjorie Berger. I'm a local USA pickleball ambassador for pickleball for the last 9 years. I brought pickleball to Winchester in 2010 and have been building the program ever since then. So I've been a player for 15 years. As a USA Pickleball Ambassador, we deal with bringing pickleball to communities, but also address all kinds of issues that come up with the game. And as you know, over the years, as the sport has grown, a lot of communities have had issues with the sound of the pickleball game. And USA Pickleball has been addressing that by gathering information from all the ambassadors across the country, of which we're probably about 5,000 by this point, coming up with some solutions. Most of it is recommending that pickleball courts not be put too close to residents, and also all kinds of sound mitigation solutions, from different paddles to different balls to screens, and sound absorbing screens that you can put on the fences. So that's where I come to the table. I addressed the sport and how it's grown a couple of years ago when we came to the select board with the idea of using an abandoned basketball court over again. And we did an engineering study and also the conservation study.
No, just right now we just have an engineering plan.
Okay.
No conservation at this point.
So 2 years ago, that wasn't approved?
That was not approved. It was.
It was just a concept
it was,
level.
Yeah, it was a concept level.
We used ARPA money to evaluate both that location as well as adding it to the. I know that the courts at Leonard are currently kind of dual use, but we looked at adding 4 separate courts at Leonard as well, adjacent to the tennis courts.
Yes, right. That was the recommendation that I first came up with. But when I found the abandoned basketball court and I looked at the distance to the houses and the buffer that the railroad affords, I thought that that was probably a possible site as well. So I've just been doing pickleball for a long time, and I'm here to address any questions that you have pertaining to that.
We very well may, but go ahead. Ms. Herman.
Thanks, Marjorie. Lauren Herman, president of the Friends of Winchester Recreation and Community Services nonprofit 501c3, and Marjorie taught me how to play pickleball.
And I'm Nick Caciolfi. I'm the recreation director. We brought the this memo to the select board tonight to see if we could have some permission to start fundraising for the different aspects that we need funding for to see if pickleball can have its own dedicated space and if it can become a reality in town. As Marjorie mentioned, it's grown considerably, not only nationally, but also in the community.
Okay. Any other sort of presentation you want to give before I turn it over to questions? Marjorie, you gave a great history of pickleball in town, but anything else you want to say before we just open up for questions? Okay. I'll start with you, Anthea.
So I walk through, everyone knows, I walk through Leonard every day. People are using those pickleball courts constantly. There's a lot of tennis that's played there. There's a lot of pickleball that's played there. I think that having that as a existing location is great because it does have the surrounding field. There's not, there's some place that has already housed tennis courts and houses a playground and houses a soccer field. I think the noise is not, disruptive outside of what you would expect from the area. And knowing Ginn, and as you mentioned with the train station, I think that that's a really, it's a good existing location. I do know that there is some use of those basketball courts because kids are out there. If they have bigger siblings who are playing softball, sometimes they're using it, or younger siblings who are in the playground, they're sometimes using a basketball court to play basketball or ride their bikes around. So just a consideration that may come up down the road from users in that area is while there are the basketball courts like right across over at McCall, I think that does still see use of those courts in some ways.
I agree. We do see a little bit of scootering going on, or skateboarding, or rollerblading going on the basketball courts. Typically, from what I see, I live right near there, so I walk through on a daily, and it's usually 1 or 2 kids at most. A lot of the time, it's empty. But I agree, the Leonard location is a good consideration as well.
From the Recreation Department's perspective, since the renovation of the courts over at McCall, the use of the basketball court has diminished dramatically. We've brought this up with the Youth Basketball Association. They agree, and also have had initial discussions with them about if this would turn in from basketball courts to pickleball courts. They didn't have any adverse reaction to that. In fact, they thought if we could get more use and more recreation out of them, that it would be a good idea. So, that's why, our main focus has been on GIN, and that's what we're looking to kind of move forward with. One of the pieces on the memo, too, I just want to bring up, too, is we're looking to do a public meeting about this. So a lot of this stuff will come up at those, and we'll be able to address it. If there is a major concern, it's something that we can look at what the concern is and see if there's a way to mitigate it or come up with a solution.
Yeah, just thinking of, something that could come up, because I know I see that when we're using that park, but I think it's a great idea. And I had another comment, but it's gone somewhere else.
We'll come back.
Yeah.
If you're thinking of it, just
Not critical.
give me the high sign. We'll come right
Not
back.
critical.
Paris?
Say what I said to you earlier, people love pickleball. And so I think you've got the right steps here, which is a sound study, to make sure that, the people in Mystic Valley and, I agree with you, the embankment should block, the other side. But your sound study will prove that. So provided that this isn't something that bothers the abutters, which, I think your process will uncover, I think it's a great step forward.
Okay. Mike, and then I'll go to Bill. Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks, Michelle. Thank you guys for bringing this forward. I'm happy to support it. Is there anything that we can do, as Paris was saying, the ceiling for pickleball in the community is high. It just keeps growing, and the demand is growing. I feel a little bit impatient with this project in particular, again, and I want to see it done. And I know sometimes fundraising for a big project like this can be difficult on the private side. And I don't know if there's anything that the board can help you do with funding the project, either town meeting or the select board.
Thank you for that question. The Friends of Winchester Recreation and Community Services are very happy to drive the fundraising effort for this project, and we have a couple of events coming up. We have a paint night occurring on May 9th at the Sons of Italy. That registration can be done on our website. We take donations, of course, on our website. We take donations via Venmo, and of course, we skip the transaction fees if you give us a personal check or cash. We also have another event coming up that's our biggest fundraiser of the year. That'll be the second annual pickleball tournament for the Friends of WinRec. That is going to be June 8th this year at the Leonard Field Courts, and we have a rain date of June 14th. So last year, this was a very popular event. We raised some good money, and we expanded it. We did 40 participants last year. This year, we're doing 60 participants. And did I get that right? 60, right? Yes. Okay. And we'll do another raffle on site. So yeah, it was a great event. If you didn't see the one last year, I encourage you to come out and check it out. It was a really fun time. Yeah.
Actually, what's the order of magnitude? I know you don't have a precise cost estimate that this project takes. Even very roughly, range is fine too.
I believe it might have been in the packet that we gave with the plans, but
I don't think I didn't include the cost estimate.
so the cost estimate that we got initially for the GIN project specifically was given to us 2 years ago, so we expect it to be a little bit higher at this point.
Sure.
And it was in, I want to say, the low $300,000 area. So just kind of circling back around on Mr. Betancourt's question. any help that we can get when it comes to recreation department projects and community projects is helpful. I feel my 5 years here, a lot of times we have to piece together these projects to make sure we have enough money, a little bit from here, a little bit from there. So is there if there's any ideas or thoughts about helping with the fundraising, or even just helping maybe with the sound study to get that off the ground, will always be welcomed. I know that Friends of Winchester Rec will do a great job of bringing up the funds, but there's going to be a gap, and we know that. We brought this project to Capitol last year. There was a lot of great projects at Capitol. It didn't get funded. Sometimes Recreation Department with roofs and windows and whatnot slides down to the bottom of the list. So we know that there's work to be done on this project. We anticipate us patching money together between private and hopefully some public funds, and anything that the select board can do would be very much appreciated.
And this would be a CPA eligible project too, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
A lot of the towns I've been working with, putting in permanent courts, definitely we've used CPA, sometimes entirely CPA funds, but a part of the piece. So I was very pleased to see Winchester sign on for CPA, because I knew it could help the rec department, but also help pickleball.
Yes.
Well, it just seems like it would be difficult to raise that amount of money on the private side without the CPA or the town's involvement or free cash or something, right? And as you know, the longer it takes, the goalposts keep moving on the costs. So, we don't want it to be taking too long. It's already a little bit too long from my perspective. And I think, Nick, you've done a great job with the rec department, always looking for new programming opportunities, which increases engagement from the community, but also revenue, right? And so it's another revenue opportunity from, a location that has really offered us none. So I appreciate that part of it as well.
Okay. I'm going to go to the phone. Bill, any questions for Friends of Recreation, or our pickleball ambassador, Marjorie?
No. Thank you.
All right. So I don't know that I have questions other than I look forward to, hearing the result of kind of the sound study. I know there's been stories on, CBS Evening News and in towns and neighbors being a bit bothered by the sound, right? So there's certainly a buffer, and, a big swale on the railroad tracks. There's some neighbors on Mystic Valley Parkway with a lot of trees in between. But I think the outreach will be critical. Does somebody want one basketball hoop hanging out on the backside of something, right? Does someone want to put up a 3-point arc and play half court? Who knows? I'm not saying that they should, but I think that use and outreach will be important for if someone thinks they should have a basketball hoop to shoot through. Does that work in your design? I don't know. If the neighbors are concerned about time of operation, if you're going to try to put lights on it, and that kind of thing. So please do keep us posted. I'm supportive of it. I think it'll be, and I know that you all can fundraise. You've shown that to us. Just want to make sure that the community and the neighbors are informed and up to speed, and it doesn't seem like we kind of just gave the green light and one day the hoops came down and the nets went up. I want people to feel like there was a pretty open process. So that's my only comment on that. And do we need to make an official motion to? No, I think it's just
It was just more
go
we should have
forth
a
and do good.
conversation, I think, before you guys put in a lot of work on the fundraising side. So, yeah.
Great, and thanks for your patience. I know Ms. Herman's been asking to get to our agenda for like a good month and a half. So thanks for your patience on taking it up tonight, and thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Good luck. Okay. Next up, Morocco Culverts. All right.
Feel better?
Yeah, you're sounding worse as you go along.
Can't do it, but thank you. Let me know if you need me or anything.
Okay.
I think it looks okay.
Yes, I think so. If we have to dial you, we will. Keep your phone handy, Mike.
Just dwindling.
Get half the board sick, but there you go. So,
Wash your hands when you leave.
seriously.
Hello, Luke Boucher from VHB. I'm just here to give an update on the Morocco School Culverts project. So I've just got a kind of a brief presentation, and I'll just flip through while I, as a visual aid as I go through this. I'll start by just giving an overall project recap overview. The project site It's located where the Aberjona River crosses under MBTA tracks near the Morocco Elementary School. For those of you who can see this, Morocco Elementary School is located down here. Across the tracks is the transfer station. And then up here, this white and green location, this is the soccer club facility. Basically, the history of this project is that the town of Winchester developed this flood mitigation program following a few severe floods since 1996 that resulted in over $25 million of damage, and that's of those dollars at that time. Those are obviously much higher figures now. There have been 8 projects in this flood management program that have been completed thus far. This is the final project in the flood management program. It's a publicly funded project to remove buildings. Essentially what this does is it lowers the flood elevation in the area upstream of the existing culverts. This figure shows that this dashed black line is the 100-year flood extents under existing conditions, and the blue are the 100-year flood extents following this project. So this project fully removes 43 buildings from the floodplain and significantly reduces the elevation of the flooding for an additional 29. So there's an overall, really significant benefit for 72 buildings.
Can I just jump in on that for those who can't see it? It's Tufts Nathaniel Road, Lower Cross Street to Lower Forest Brookside, Andrea Circle, and going up Sunset. Is that about right?
Yeah. Yes, I believe so. And another thing that I didn't mention is that this fully brings the Morocco School out of the floodplain.
That's important, given the topic we just had.
And I think if you just go back for a second, it brings, so the black line is the existing floodplain, which covers a large portion of the field behind the school, and that shrinks it and opens that space up should there be an expansion or a renovation of that school.
That's a great point. So not only the existing school, but frees up a bunch of area that was previously in floodplain.
Yep.
So what this project is how this project is going to function is it's the installation of 2 8-foot diameter culverts that on the side of the 2 existing box culverts to supplement that and increase the carrying capacity. As that's active rail line, the 8-foot diameter pipes are to be installed via pipe jacking, meaning that they dig a hole on the upstream end and the downstream end and push the pipe under the railroad embankment, and they'll do that on either side of the existing culverts. Along with that, there's some additional work with removal of utility poles and some widening of the river in the immediate approach to the new culverts, where the new culverts are going to be a little further outside of the footprint of the existing culverts. This figure shows construction access. And one of the kind of the main pieces, right? So like this project, after over a year-long permitting process with MBTA, this went out to bid and was awarded to a contractor last summer. And since then, some work has been completed, including the installation of this access road from the transfer station, the kind of formalization of this little access road through at Morocco School, and this is an existing access, this thick black line that comes off of Cross Street through the industrial park and then up into the railroad right of way. One piece of so what ended up happening is once we were in construction, we had a field meeting with MBTA, and they had expressed concerns with a couple of things that, while they were included in the approved plans that MBTA had issued the license for, MBTA was sort of second guessing. And one of those, it was a temporary track crossing here, which allowed us to access this quadrant behind the soccer field. MBTA has since said that temporary track crossing is essentially a non-starter, which has kind of forced us to go back to the drawing board on a piece of this, which is the construction access to this quadrant. And so what we are now looking at is accessing through a temporary construction easement through the soccer property and then up onto the railroad right-of-way, where the contractor would have to do some work to flatten things out and remove some utility poles to allow access down to this location here at that southeast corner of the existing soccer field. Southwest corner of the existing soccer field. So in addition to this access road already being constructed in this staging area, following that and this discussion about temporary track crossing, the construction of the project has essentially been put on hold because along with those that temporary track crossing conversation that we had with MBTA, they also had expressed concerns about the stability of the existing the two existing box culverts, and specifically how those two culverts would react to vibrations during construction. We also were able to perform some additional exploration, and here's probably the better place to show it, where the existing culvert is. It's 100 years old or thereabouts. There's no existing as-built information for it. So what we were able to do is once the contractor was allowed to access the site, we were allowed to do some additional test pits. And those test pits, unfortunately, indicated that the walls of those culverts are much thicker than we anticipated. The walls are 8 feet thick. So what that forces us to do is what you can see here is we need to slide these, we need to shift these two proposed culverts a little further away to give us a little more space. You can see it a little better here with this dash line being essentially the thickness of the wall. Where we previously were showing those culverts here, we need to slide them further away to give ourselves more separation from the outer walls. And along with that kind of shift of these two outer culverts, we need to regrade the side slopes of the river. We were already doing work out here, so we're able to still kind of hold our top of bank elevation, but we're steepening up these slopes a little to minimize how much disturbance we'd have as we get further away from the river. So with MBTA's concerns about the existing structures, they additional measures to protect against, they required additional measures to protect against culvert failure. And so what we are showing here and what MBTA has essentially agreed to do is that we would put a permanent sleeve through the two existing boxes. These two boxes they're currently 7 foot by 7 foot squares. So we did a scan of the inside of these culverts to see what the maximum size pipe that we could sleeve through here would be. So the concept is to sleeve these two existing culverts with 65-inch pipes and then grout the annular space around, and essentially that'll lock everything in place, eliminating concern for shifting due to vibrations during driving of sheeting and actually pushing the pipe through. But the end result is that the flood reduction benefits in that upstream area are unchanged, no change from the originally approved project. I've got a little bit of a permitting status update I can provide as well. So along with the shifting of these two pipes to the outside and sleeving of the existing pipes and, you know, revisions to the grading along the edge, you know, we've been going through a redesign and permitting outreach process where we've had conversations with DEP and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and MBTA, as well as the local Conservation Commission. So we've have agreement from MBTA, U.S. Army Corps, and Mass DEP that these can all be approved administratively and relatively quickly, which would, you know, is going to minimize our sort of downtime before we can get the contractor back out there working on this and installing these.
Okay. And I know we're bringing this up at Springtown meeting. I don't know if we're taking this up earlier or later in the sort of sequence of events, but we do have to ask for some additional funding to accommodate this new design and these changes. And assuming that town meeting doesn't close until end of May, the soonest we could probably mobilize is June, I would think at this point, right, Beth?
Yeah, I think there's, as you mentioned, some additional permitting to be done. So timing of that we'll have to kind of figure out as we go through town meeting. And then there's some procurement of the pipe that's going to get pushed through the culvert. I'm sure there's a lead time on all that. So it certainly won't start June 1st.
Okay.
You did say all the permitting that's external to Winchester is complete, though?
No.
BTA,
we've
Army Corps? No, sorry, go ahead.
Nope. So we've had preliminary conversations with all of those agencies, and we've shared with them a preliminary concept plan. This is what we're thinking of doing. What is your initial reaction to that? Do you foresee any issues? And DEP and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and MBTA have all said that they are on board with the concept and that they don't see any issues, and that they anticipate that they would be able to turn around an administrative approval, meaning that it wouldn't require a new application. It would be an amendment of our existing application in all three of those cases. An amendment to our permit or our license, not application. Yes.
Okay. So I would hope, Beth, when we talk about this at Springtown meeting, like you or Luke or someone can explain these slides to some degree.
Yep.
Good. Because there's certainly a lot here, and there's, you know, even just understanding that the river needs to widen so that it's actually effective, and sort of some of the why behind this, I think, will be important. It's been delayed. It's increased in cost. This will be the second time.
Correct.
And we I think, need town meeting to understand and the public to understand sort of what that is. But we're committed to moving forward. It's too important for those 70-odd homeowners and a future Morocco school to not do this project.
Absolutely.
So we're hoping to get support and then all the approvals we need. So, okay.
And just to kind of tie it into the projects that will be coming to Capitol this spring. So there's a request, I think it's for $175,000, which once this project is complete, will be complete with our flood mitigation program, which, as you mentioned, started in the mid-1990s. And so we'll be able to actually go back to FEMA and have the floodplain in Winchester remapped. So it will not just impact those 72 structures upstream of the Morocco culvert. It will help all of the structures throughout Winchester who will be either removed or reduced flood impact. So it's really, I think, quite an accomplishment for the town to have taken the initiative over that many years to complete a project like this.
Shout out to Jim Johnson, who championed that back in the mid to late 1990s.
Yep.
This is his baby.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. Any questions for Luke? I'll start with you, Bill, if you're listening. Any questions for Luke?
No.
Okay. Anthea?
No.
Okay. I made my sort of pitch, which is please make sure we have the slides and the folks to describe them on Springtown meeting. And I think we'll be able to get back to you, if it's you, your representative, or Beth or Matt, in terms of, you know, which night of town meeting we think this will come up. It's a lot. Even that like cross section with all the lines, it's a lot. So I think unpacking it and then unpacking the elements of cost will be useful. And
good.
certainly we're committed. So thank you. Thanks for sitting through the other business items this evening, and thanks for this update.
Yeah, thank you.
This is great. All right, we're getting down the home stretch. Look at that. Springtown meeting motions. We have many, I think, that are ready to be approved, right? Beth, do you want to maybe step us
Sure.
through in our
Yep.
packet? Or
So the board has several articles that you approved at your last meeting to be placed on the warrant. We did draft the motions related to those articles that are also included in your packet. I feel like I'm missing a page in what I printed. There's several articles. One is the typical board and committee report, setting up the water and sewer rates. We've had a few meetings about that. At your last meeting, you approved. Thank you, Patty.
Thanks, Patty.
I only have 2 pages of the 4. I think you approved an 8% rate increase at the last meeting, acceptance of Chapter 90 funds as a standard article, rescinding of borrowing authorizations, which we actually don't have any this spring to rescind, committee action, which is typically the last article of town meeting, both in the spring and the fall, strategic maintenance account, which is proposed to be co-sponsored with the town manager and the capital planning committee, as we've done the past few years. We have an article on there related to potential use of town-owned land for mitigation associated with the potential development at 10 Converse Place. We have the article related to Morocco flooding, and then as well, finally, an article related to the adoption of Chapter 200A, Section 9A, which is related to the disposition of abandoned funds. So in your packet are the motions associated with those. For Morocco Culvert, we have the proposed dollar value is $2.6 million. For the strategic maintenance account, the proposed amount is $200,000 based on the conversation we had at the last meeting. And then everything else from there I think is fairly straightforward. So I'm happy to take any questions. If the board is comfortable, we could vote these this evening, or we could schedule a follow-up meeting to vote them in.
I'll start with Bill and then Anthea. Mike's not here, but we certainly can still get to some positions. Bill, do you feel comfortable voting the motions on these articles that Beth just described this evening?
Yeah, I think a lot of them are pretty straightforward, and we've talked about them enough so far that we kind of know why we're doing them. So I'm just kind of looking at them again, but I'm pretty sure we could probably set most of these tonight.
Okay. Anthea, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I have no concerns with them. They're all pretty standard in terms of either year over year or, as we just discussed, Morocco Culvert. So defer to our newest member, really.
I mean, these were all, maybe the exception of the Morocco Culvert, were discussed and approved before I joined. So I'm going to assume they all reflect the select board votes, and so.
Okay. So if we can, let's just go through one at a time.
You can vote it. Just voting like approval of the motions.
Correct.
That go on.
Not our
So
positions.
We
Right.
we do that as a single vote, right?
Nice.
Yep.
As long as we can. I figured we would, so nice. Okay.
You want me to make that motion then?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Move that we approve the proposed motions in substantially the form presented for the article sponsored by the select board.
Second.
Okay. Bill.
I didn't hear the motion. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Bill. I move that we approve the proposed motions in substantially the form presented for the article sponsored by the select board.
Okay. Aye.
Second.
All right. Okay. So Paris is second. Roll call vote. Bill is a yes. Paris.
Yes.
Anthea.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay.
I just thought I'd catch you guys up with the warrant closing on March 14th. We've received all the articles that will recently be heard at town meeting. So just a few to highlight. The planning board did submit an article to update the floodplain bylaw. That's part of the town zoning bylaw to bring it into compliance with the new maps that will be adopted. We have the standard FY25 and FY26 budget articles that will be coming forward from the Finance Committee, FY25 to adjust any FY25 budgets who might need some additional funding. We have two, well, I guess actually 3 citizens petitions, 2 articles related to the ledges, which was discussed at your meeting on March 10th.
Yes.
A proposed change to the Finance Committee appointment process that's outlined in the Code of Bylaws. That is a citizens petition, not to be confused with the other articles coming forward from the Committee on Government Regs related to the bylaw. Adoption of a new chapter in the Code of Bylaws to eliminate the use of SCARs on town property as relates to rodent control. And then the Capital Planning Committee has several articles coming forward for funding from the Building and Capital Stabilization Fund, as well as from the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund. I won't go over each of those. I think we're trying to work out a date for the chair of the Capital Planning Committee to come in and review those with the board.
You said there's 2 proposals from Ledges?
Correct. Yep. So one is a rezoning proposal and one is a requirement. I don't have the article in front of me, but they have to, town meeting has to release the lot itself. So it's a 2-step process. 2 steps.
Yeah,
it's the same, it's the 2 same articles that were submitted last fall.
Yeah.
Yep. Then there'll be an article, first article related to funding for the Community Preservation Act in FY26, several articles under the Personnel Board, and then there's 18 articles total from the Committee on Government Regs, who's acting as the Decennial Review Committee. So we think we have a grand total of 56 articles before us for spring.
Is that a record?
I mean, it's really been a record since I've been in this role, but
I think Regs out it maybe a little more normal than right. And that's a unique case, right?
It is a unique case, yes.
I don't think I've ever seen it go much above 40, so 56 is record-setting for me.
Yep.
And so this maybe for the public, I know I said this at the beginning, there is a hearing on government regs proposed articles tomorrow evening at 6 on Zoom. So that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Okay. Bring your snacks. Okay, so thank you for voting the motions tonight. I do want to get through the disposition of real property at 955 Main. I think I'd like to take up outdoor dining applications, but given that Bill is not maybe at his best and Mike has left the room, I thought maybe we could discuss outdoor dining, but maybe not take any action on voting those tonight, and let's take it up when we have a full board. But given that we did have a chance to discuss 955 in exec session, and we have information in the packet, I'd like to take that up next. We'll review outdoor dining, and then we'll wrap it up with any committee updates, if that sounds okay. I'm seeing some nods of affirmation, so okay. So 955 Main is the parking lot kind of behind the medical building that the town owns. It's a little spur off to the side. We had put out a request for proposals back in September, Beth. They were originally due September 30th.
Right. Yep.
There were no bidders. Then we issued a new RFP, and responses were due March 17th, if I recall correctly.
Right.
We have one response from the trustees of the building at 955 Main, and they they met the minimum price that we put forth in the RFP. So if anybody has any questions on that, otherwise maybe we can just entertain a motion. Maybe we can make a motion, then we'll ask for more discussion. So go right ahead.
Move that we award the lease for the parking lot located at 955 Main Street to Russell Hill Office Condominium and authorize the town manager to execute the same subject to any revisions as may be approved by town council.
Second.
Okay. Any additional discussion? Bill, I'll start with you.
No, I think we've discussed this one enough. I've had all my questions answered.
Okay. Any discussions, Paris?
Well said, Bill.
Anthea, we're good? Okay, so I'll do a roll call vote then. I'll start again with you, Bill.
Aye.
Paris?
Yes.
Anthea?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, so Beth, if today is March 24th, potentially if all the paperwork is in place, perhaps they can start paying a lease April 1st.
Yep.
And using the parking. Okay. Next up is outdoor dining. We had 5 responses to outdoor dining with a combination, different space requests for the various streets depending on the property. I'm going to ask Beth, I assume we saw in our packet certificates of insurance, we saw completed applications. I assume town manager's office had no no gaps, no
Correct.
follow-up needed?
Yep,
They're-
so we,
they're responsive applications?
Yeah, we sent this out to staff for review. The only real deviation recommended was on the Atavola request, which was to use 2 parking spaces plus it's kind of a striped no parking zone towards the corner of Church and Waterfield that they wanted to utilize. Our recommendation is to not use that area, to keep that open to allow for adequate sight lines for cars coming in and out of Waterfield Road.
And the crosswalk.
And the crosswalk, yep. So I think the 2 parking spaces is fine, just not to use that no parking area.
Okay.
I will just mention that the board, in the outdoor dining policy that was adopted earlier this year in January, there was a recommendation or requirement that restaurants would be allowed to use up to 3 contiguous parking spaces so long as they do not extend beyond the length of the business's street frontage unless otherwise approved by the board. Requests for greater than 3 spaces would be considered on a case-by-case basis. So everyone has stuck to the 3 space maximum. There are 2 businesses whose space area does go beyond their street frontage, which I think you guys can have further conversation about. One is Black Horse Tavern, and then the other one is First House Pub.
Okay, so as it relates to Black Horse Tavern, it's further up Thompson Street, but properties that are owned by the same ownership group, and it's the same footprint they've had in previous years.
Yep.
And then as it relates to First House Pub, it's a space kind of closer to the crosswalk with Eastern Bank, and then a space that creeps into the toy store, Catch a Falling Star.
Right. I have some pictures of it.
That's also what they had hoped, that's what they had last year, so, okay.
Do you have a picture of the Church Street, or just the Catch Falling?
I don't have Church Street. I think it's in their
It's
in their
Val's
application.
And Atavolas.
So I'll just say, as it relates to the first house, we heard from the business owner when we were going through this in January. We made that change to try to have these spaces be contiguous. I think that was consistent with, Belmont, Boston, maybe some other towns. So I know we're not going to make a formal decision on that tonight, but I think I'd be probably leaning toward giving them the space to the edge of their property, and then maybe if they can get permission from the business owner, letting them have the full space. But I feel like hearing that, business owners' concerns, I want to take that seriously. And I would assume the bank doesn't seem to mind because they also have a lot of frontage on the other side of the crosswalk, and they turn the corner. But that's just me. I know we're not going to make a formal vote tonight, but that might be a place where see if the board wants to go back and get some additional either information or okay. That's my sense on that one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like I say this a lot, but then those spaces are very long, and I'm just looking at on like Street View what that looks like, and it's like the bank frontage, 2 big windows in First House, from what they've done, previously at some point, and overlapping on Catch a Falling Star. So I would agree with just getting that sort of approval from their owner.
But they would go, the picture of the
consent from
application
their
is
owner.
good, so they would go over to Eastern Bank as well.
Yes.
It's pretty
If you look
big.
at
I agree.
Yes.
From prior years.
So, Bill, any comments, questions? We're not voting tonight, but this is discussion. Any observations on any of the applications?
I had the same comment on First House Pub, that it just seems, considering what we went through, it would be silly not to get just a thumbs up or thumbs down from the neighbors. And I'm kind of curious about the same thing with the Black Horse Tavern. I know it's spaced under common ownership, but we had a similar question about that with Lucia's last year, because they do own the space for the pet store right next to it. So I don't know if the tenants in that space actually care or not, but it seems worthwhile just to trying to make sure everyone's happy with what's going to happen here.
Yep, good point. Maybe we can get that in writing, right? So it doesn't seem like that we've sort of exceeded our authority and or ignored our own policy. So that's a good point,
Yeah.
Bill. Maybe we can get that assent in writing.
And that was okay with the post office as well, right? Because they have, they have the trucks that are getting in and out of there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, any additional discussion on this?
One I would raise.
Yeah, please.
So, I appreciate you probably have a good reason for recommending that Nouvelle and Altavola sort of stay further down Church Street. So what is the perspective on if they take all or part of the no parking, it would create sightline issues? Just to understand that a bit more.
Yeah, so the concern, part of the impetus for this project, right, is for vehicles coming out of Waterfield Lot to have better sightlines in both directions, and also to have a clear point of view and ability to see pedestrians in the crosswalks there. And so the concern from staff when it was sent out to multiple departments for review is that that would really limit those sightlines for vehicles kind of looking left up Church Street, and also for cars coming down Church Street to see people in the crosswalks there.
In past years, Beth, they didn't have that
They
no
just had
parking.
the two.
Right.
The two
They didn't
spaces.
extend it to that no parking space in previous years.
Yeah.
That's what I
But
was
they have a
remembering.
second applicant though this year, right?
It's the same space. It's just that the way their businesses overlap, one will be able to use that space as not for service outside, but as like a seating area for people who want to take a pastry and sit out there, and then Altavola will come in for dinner
For
service as
dining
they've done in the past. Yep.
So they wouldn't be necessarily roped off during the day, and
Yeah, it's just if you get
they
a
could
coffee and you want to sit for a few minutes, and yep.
Okay. Any other suggestions, observations?
And I mean, again, street view, so it is what it is. But
It's a great thing.
The application photos, right?
it looks like they, in an early year, had gone the opposite
Yes.
direction.
Further up.
I think that might have been a different owner
For Altavola.
for
Yeah, it
Altavola
did change.
previously. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just looking at it, and it looks like instead of using, as there was a handicap spot there, they had
Yes.
this way too.
Okay, so more to come. I know the outdoor dining season begins Wednesday, May 7th, so first Wednesday in May. So we would certainly need to make a decision, if not on the 7th of April, potentially on the 28th. And I know one thing, Beth, just moving on to future meetings, depending on how things go, we'll have to catch up. Mike, and then Bill, this is a heads up for you. We got through motions this evening, which is great because the motion book closes at the end of the month. We may need to meet on the 14th of April. I suppose if something late breaking happens, like our motions are solid, we know what we're doing. But I think if there's movement within the warrant, if there's movement within motions, I'm just saying that out loud to us as a group. We are certainly calendared for April 7th. But whether that would be another in-person meeting or a Zoom meeting, if there's some business to get through before town meeting, we may need to look at that date.
Town
Or
meeting starts
maybe-
on the 28th.
Yes.
So we wouldn't meet, otherwise we would not be meeting between the 7th and the 28th.
Correct. And I suppose whether it was the 14th or it was a Zoom meeting off cycle, I think we would just take the will of the board. But a lot can happen, as we know, and we know that the night of town meeting, there's just, often consent agenda items and things to get through, and we have to vote positions on 56 warrant articles. And potentially hear from capital planning in April. So just put that in the back of your mind. Might be another meeting in your future.
Record-setting meeting.
At the record-setting warrant, yes. So I think that was one update that I wanted to share. Did anybody else have any committee updates or hear from any of the committees? I know, Bill, you were in touch with Beth and myself. I was copied on some WinCam grants or cable access funds. Is there any update that you want to share? I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't want to talk, too. We can always take
No,
it up.
it's easy. The Cable Access Committee, we got an agreement in theory with, I think it's Verizon. And we'll be bringing that forward to the Select Board for approval at the next meeting. Ashley Stevens will be doing that. these are agreements that have funded WinCam for years now, and it is one of the large sources for WinCam support. But it's important for us to get it done expeditiously right now because there is a significant fear in Washington that the requirement for these PEG grants, which is what they're called, is going to disappear. So I would say our council did a good job negotiating, and we got something that is very close to what we already had, and accommodated the fact that we were actually getting overpaid a little bit for the past contract. But we'll probably hear more about this all at our next meeting.
Okay. I know we've talked, a bunch of us at various times, about State of the Town Committee. I think we have to sort of put some goals on paper and potentially think about when do we invite members of the public to join that group, and how will we advertise and notice that. So I'd like to have some conversations on that in our April meetings, so that going into town meeting we can at least share the path forward on timing and participation and I think the goals of the committee. So more to come on that, but I didn't want to start naming people and appointing people. We don't have, one of our members is not here and another member is on the phone. So, but I think that will be a topic in April as well. Beth just asked if we're ready to, this is maybe a bit of a raise your hand thing, if you wanted to speak at town meeting to any of the specific articles. So Beth, if you want to go through, Anthea's raising her hand.
Water and sewer.
Anthea will take water and sewer.
Strategic maintenance, I believe the chair of the capital planning committee would like to take that. So maybe between you and I, Michelle, working with him, we can get that one.
Yeah, I think capital planning, speaking to that, is fine. It's capital planning controlled funding.
Yep.
If the board feels differently, or Bill as liaison, if you wanted to speak, but I feel like Roger could very well explain the need and the use for that one.
I'll do whatever Roger wants me to do.
Oh, hey, that's nice. Okay. That's easy. Okay, what else do we have?
Okay, so the two more challenging ones are probably the 10 Converse Place and Morocco Culvert.
I did the Morocco Culvert last year. I'm happy to just continue to own that.
Okay. I'm
With
happy
enthusiasm.
to work with you on that.
No, you're not off the hook, Beth.
Oh no, we're gonna need some engineering help. Okay, thank you, Bill, for that.
The disposition of abandoned funds.
Paris, would you like to take a swing at a pretty straightforward one? You don't have to commit to that.
What
but-
was the?
So it's adoption of Chapter 200A, Section 9A, which allows sort of a expedited process for the treasurer to deal with kind of abandoned funds as opposed to going to the state and then getting your name in the registry and advertise on the radio that you can call in or go to the website and find your abandoned money. There's
Treasurer's Department,
expedited process at the town level for those abandoned funds.
Great.
And I can send you her memos tomorrow.
And I can help you with that too. And you don't have to take it. I think my first year I did nothing in that seat and said, I don't know, I wasn't here. So we can put your name there, or we can put both of our names there. It's a pretty straightforward adopting a chapter so that the treasurer can just kind of streamline the process.
Expedite lost property, yeah. That's
Yeah.
fair. Easy
So,
one.
okay, thank you. Maybe I'll take 10 Converse and I'll ask Mike if he wants it. I'm happy to, because at that point, I think he would not have one other than his own potential tuition, professional development, literacy one. But, so if he'd like it, I'm happy to give that to him. Is there anything else, Beth, that we have?
I think that's it.
That's pretty easy. So, and Patty, you will start to build the table for us. So, Paris, we have a table of who's speaking to every warrant, and then we will vote all of the articles. So we just really march down the list of, who's speaking to it for us, who's speaking to it from all the various other boards and committees, and then our position of favorable action, unfavorable action. Given that we won't take up financial articles until the first Monday in May, our goal in April is to get through everything in the warrant that isn't necessarily budget. And if we get past that, great. But there's just a lot of articles, and we can always take those slightly out of order if some just seem easier than others. Some will be on consent, right, Beth? We don't
Correct.
know.
Yep.
So some of those articles will be on the consent agenda, but we'll still need to take favorable action on everything.
Yep.
And we'll know more when we get the motion book in our hands, so. Okay. Any other update?
I was sick in bed for the Fields Committee meeting, so no update for me.
I think we understand.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think select board committee assignments, we may, if there's any specific meetings that need to be covered between now and the end of town meeting, I'll ask Beth and Patty to make Anthony and I aware of that so we can find some coverage. But I think I'd like to do committee assignments for the next fiscal year after town meeting. So if people want to trade, some of the John assignments need to get filled. So if there's a meeting that needs some coverage, Patty, let Anthony and I know, and then we'll try to go or we'll try to find someone to cover.
Yeah, and I'm happy to help cover some of this as well.
Yes,
I know,
thank you.
There's sort of a jump ball at the moment.
Yeah, and it's a very busy time of year with like public hearings. And Beth, when's the town manager's hearing on the warrant?
Yeah, so we're still trying to work that out. I think FinCom's hearing on their budget is the 23rd of April. It's challenging with school vacation week being right before town meeting. But the motions book won't really be finished until the 17th or 18th of April. So I think the manager's hearing will also probably be
during that week.
Probably the 24th would be my guess, because I probably don't want to do it the same night as FinCom.
Wow.
So it's a challenge. Last year, I think we had an extra week between
It feels
vacation
like,
and town
yeah.
meeting, and this year, with
Definitely.
it being right up against it, feels a little more
Okay.
challenging. But
So those are on Zoom. I know yours is on Zoom, so wherever you might be. But and so Paris, for your benefit, usually, so Beth does a hearing on all the warrant articles that don't have other public hearings. So if planning board has a hearing, their articles will get covered. FinCom has a hearing for their articles, but everything else, including personnel, citizen petitions, our articles, Beth will take up in her hearing. Normally, any of us that are sort of speaking to at a town meeting, we try to at least cover or dial in if there are questions and we're going to be presenting it. It's not hard and fast, but you might want to just listen in for it, or if there's some questions on the treasurer's article, certainly water and sewer rates may. So that's generally how we try to cover it, and then Beth will let us know kind of the sequence and how we're going to just march through it and roughly what time. But
Do you mind if I just back up?
Please.
One thing, it might be helpful to send our current list of committee assignments to Paris, so he just
Yes.
knows not what people are assigned to, but also like what all of the things
Yes,
are.
excellent suggestion. And it's not as if someone had this committee, they must stay on that committee. It's very much a conversation, and it's, raising your hand. So if you have some things when you see it, thank you. When we take that up, which will probably be later in May, because I think we just want to get through
be in
these
town
50,
meeting for a while.
56.
Alpha 50, so was it 6 or 8?
56.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Can I also just put in a plug that April 7th is also our yearly reappointments and renewals for committee and commission and boards.
Oh my goodness, it's gonna be a meeting.
So I have that. It's usually a lot of people, but this year it's not.
Okay. And we will have some people to interview that
Yes, you
evening?
will. There's a new person for the cultural council that I just added in, and there'll be 2 people for council on aging, and that's it for now.
So, Bill, what Patty is saying is April 7th meeting will be committee appointments for various committees, and we have maybe a couple of new applicants, one certainly for Cultural Council, but it's not a slew of interviews, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But that will take place
okay,
April
thank
7th.
you.
Yes.
I got one more thing. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
April 2nd, which is Wednesday, the CPA committee has organized a CPA training that will be held here.
Yes.
And will be recorded and broadcast by WinCam as well. So
And we've all been invited, which I think will be pretty illuminating. So I'm going to go, and thank you to David Miller for getting that signed up. It's going to be a lot of people in the room.
Just as a reminder, if more than three of you are attending, I have to post it as 2 separate meetings. That the select board will be here, and then it was the CPA training.
I think you should go ahead and post it, Patty, given that everyone's invited. And I think some of us, Mike's been staying very close to CPA, but I think some of us might just benefit from the training, right, for like longer term. So please go ahead and post it.
Yes.
Thank you. Excellent housekeeping. I don't want to, you're on a roll. I don't want to move off.
I know, I got it. I'll be quiet because I,
Okay. Then I think we can do the consent agenda, and then we can adjourn.
motion to approve the consent agenda as posted for March 24th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, Bill,
Aye.
Paris,
Yes.
Anthea.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, WinCam. Bill, get some rest. Thanks,
Bye-bye,
everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, good night.